Gustav Hasford or something like that, wrote Short Timers, coming out of the Vietnam War. That was turned into Full Metal Jacket by Kubrick. I know some process of writers, and one process of infinite jest. David Foster Wallace would write it down. I mean, he was probably one of the worst abusers of the herb, you know, of the green stuff. He was pretty bad about it. He also was on like serotonin uptakes and stuff, but he would write it down on a like in a journal. You know, it was like loose leaf paper, I think is what I heard, and that would be just brainstorming whatever it was, and then that would be written down again to perfect what he was trying to say. So it was written down once, just craziness, whatever, however, then it was interpreted and written down again clearly, and then it was typed up. He did that for thousands of pages on Infinite Jest, which I think it was well over 1,000 pages, well over. It takes like 9 or 10 hours just to listen to it being read. I don't know exactly how long, and it's pretty good. You know, it's an infinite jest. But he was talking about something like YouTube, but it was done with cartridges, and it went into like almost like a floppy disk that went into those old computers. But he described it as a cartridge that would go into the computer, and you would sit there and watch it. Look at this. And it was an infinite jest. He's also really crazy about tennis. You know, if there's a war going on, you don't have to like it. People protest. You don't have to like it. If nobody said anything about Vietnam, they may have completely eliminated all of North Vietnamese. Babies, innocent women, special people in wheelchairs, if no one would have said anything. But you don't have to like the war. But you do have to choose. Ultimately, you have to choose what you represent. Do you think it's okay for a baby to be killed in the womb? That's one side. Do you think it's okay for someone to protect a baby, a life? And that's one side. You've got the killers, a part of the Holocaust. And listen, they knew about it in the 40s. When it was going on in Germany, they had photographs. America said it was wrong. Not all of America did, but a big chunk of America said it was wrong. So they made a choice. They got on boats, thousands of boats, 7,000 more boats, vehicles, landed on the shores of Normandy, stormed the beaches, gave up their lives to stop the Holocaust. Who's going to stop the invisible Holocaust? Is it the United States military? Absolutely not. They will continue to kill your child right now. We have the ability to change the hearts and minds of that flag that will kill your baby, scramble the baby's head in New York City. A live baby that can talk and say, do not do this to me. Or you can lay there like a lazy bum and let them kill babies. And what are you going to do to protect a child? The same thing that you did to protect someone from Israel. It is the same thing, but it's not about real estate, because the real estate is in the sky. It is not in Israel or Gaza. Watch out! I've seen simply what can be done to 3,000 people in a large building, actually 2 large buildings that are no longer there, in a matter of seconds, done by people that had flimsy razor blades. They had no guns. They had flimsy razor blades. They believed in something. This country is armed to the gill. It is armed to the gill. HK7 bullet goes through vest and some shields. It's an HK7. You've already got them. Do you want the baby to live or do you want the baby to die? Because in Texas, we'll hunt you down and you'll pay a price if you choose the wrong decision. Do babies have the right to live, whether they're from Israel or they're from wherever? The real estate is in the sky. Make your choice. Wave your flag. I've made my choice. I made my choice when I said he rose again on the 3rd day. Took 3 days. And he showed his wound to Thomas and told them what you do. You baptize and you heal. You baptize and you heal. You baptize and you heal. You don't deal and you don't kill babies. So he made the choice for us. But when he comes back, his white robe will be bathed in your blood. And you know who you are. And at that time, it will be too late for you. Now, when I made my point about Platoon and about how Platoon is happening among the police force, you know, the Oliver Stone movie Platoon, how that's similar because they policed Vietnam. Vietnam was a police action. It was never considered a war. And they responded back with what is known as hate speech, probably because they're responding back with probably the behavior, okay? But when you listen to Sam Kinison tell a joke, is it because the joke is funny? Because the anger was there with Sam Kinison. The anger is there with Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men, or in The Shining. And they play that every day on different platforms. So is it that YouTube are they against language, which I personally, from my voice, don't use any curse words. I try to leave off all racial slurs. And I try to, but if I were a robot, hello, I will talk like this all the time, I would not be representing myself, because I do get angry. I do get sad. I do get happy. I do get sometimes anxiety, or there's mania sometimes, or just Robin Williams style kind of thing. I do reveal emotion because I am a human being. So if I reveal humanity, if I reveal humanity about ideas or emotion, that offends you? Okay, so another thing about glorious glow hands, which is it's not criminal science, because really it's called forensic science, but supernatural mixed in with forensic science. And Colt, who's more on the side of forensic science, who uses the luminol, thinking of the word use and luminol, he uses the word, okay, or he uses luminol, okay, so he uses science to spray this secret chemical that's like luminol onto where blood has been spilt. Doesn't matter the age. So it can tell if it's a person or not. And it can also tell if it's an animal or not, too. So if it sprays on, like, let's say furniture where blood is spilt, it can tell if it's an animal. It can tell if it's a gender. I mean, it can tell if it has gender. So it could be male or female. It can tell the difference. It can tell its nationality, believe it or not. So in the blood, it can tell where they're from. This is a very fictional luminol. Then from there, he would catch questions. She'd be taken to the murder site, or where the blood was found, and she would begin to speak in tongues. Then she would get dreams. She'd have these dreams about the murder and could see it and describe it. Then there would be signs that would come to them that's otherworldly. In the first episode, one of the first episodes, there's missing nails in the wall where they're working. He just sees it right behind where his computer and stuff is, or whatever, and he sees it and he knows it's a star constellation, and then he puts the constellation in a system, and it brings up this birth date. So it's a little Lynchian. Then he realizes that it's female, because they spray the end of the cigarette. So they find this shit. What happens is they're in a Walmart, and they're walking in a parking lot. She begins to speak in tongues. So I asked Linda, I said, Linda, would you speak in tongues right here? Which she can do, or at times. And she goes and starts speaking in tongues, because Linda does that. Linda will speak in tongues. Then the cigarette butt is recovered, and at that time, Colt has the luminol and sprays the filter, and it turns pink, and he sends that off to a lab, because he's kind of Batman a little bit. He's not like, you don't know his history very well, but he's a film buff. He likes the movies, the Christopher Nolan movies, the Batman. He likes Taxi Driver, Martin Scorsese films. He's a big film buff too. Then also, he is kind of a scientist in a way, and he's a little bit of a believer. You have to be somewhat a believer, and he knows that she speaks in tongues, so he knows there's this otherworldly connection. And Twin Peaks, that Lynchian connection, is part of the investigation with Cooper, before Cooper flies the coop. You know what I mean? It's part of the investigation. So what she ends up doing is she's kind of a tool for finding these, murders. So he sends it back to the lab. He gets a name somehow, and it's Star Sky Climber, I believe. I have to go back and look at these notes, but I think it's Star Sky Climber, and she was a hippie that changed her name. I guess maybe I got the name from Lost Boys. Her name was Star. I like that name. So Star Sky Climber. And she was like a hippie, and they do this research. They start building all the research and discovering the murder. She has these dreams and stuff. She sees a man with a badge and all this stuff. And it was a cop in the 1960s and 69 that was killing people kind of like the cop that was killing people in in San Francisco a long time ago. The Golden Gate Killer. Yeah, he was a cop or security guard or something like that. Some say he was a cop. They eventually caught him, and he would do things like break into people's houses or whatever and kill them. Not what they do whenever they break in with, like, you know, when they kick in and everyone gets, you know, whatever. They're shooting dogs and all this stuff. He was like sneaky about it, kind of like Richard Ramirez. And he would sneak in and kill people. That was the Golden Gate Killer. He was supposedly a cop. But this was like a serial killer that was a cop in the 1960s. And that's where the first episode leads to. And he's still alive, right? And then they go and they interview him and stuff like that. I called a friend, or actually, no, I sent a message to a friend of mine to play that character. We were going to do that first episode, that first scene. I was going to write it up where they confront him and they talk to him, but he never responded. He's a professor. I don't remember where. He's a professor. He was a professor here, and then he went to Dallas. But anyway, that was pretty much just the first pilot episode. It all leads in that. So you see these flashback sequences from the 60s. Later, when the series matures, Colt realizes he can time travel, and then he can also bring Catch with him. They like go to sleep and stuff, and there's some ritual they go through before they go to sleep. And when they go to sleep, they wake up in this different time, and they can go anytime at all the way back to the dinosaurs. You know, anytime they want to time travel. He thinks about it, and then he looks at like a photo. Now there's in the song, which is Glorious Glow Hands, she talks about the photo in her hand. If you listen to the lyrics of the song, before the great transition is one of the lines. I also changed transition to something else. If you listen to the lyrics in some other versions, he doesn't say transitions. He says something about your great non-transition or something. He has a weird word that he says, but that song is about more than one thing, but it works for Glorious Glow Hands. But he does talk about before you're great. I think it starts, I remember now, okay? So it goes, this is back when we were doing a lot of music. It's probably one of our greatest songs. It's called Glorious Glow Hands. It goes, if I know the first word, I can probably get through a lot of it if I don't butcher it, my own song. I was playing guitar at the time, which I was practicing the other day. Before you wake up alone, you wake up before non-transition with a photo in your hand. I gotta listen to it, talk about it later. I gotta listen. It's kind of based a little on Jane's Diction's kind of style. I gotta listen to it, talk about it later.